And Are You Okay is a not safe for work podcast, so any young listeners are discouraged from continuing. However, we literally have no way to track that, so do whatever the hell you want and enjoy the show.
It was Dallas week. It is.
And they fucking suck, dude.
They fucking suck. Even their quarterback knows it. They're fucking trash.
No, I hope, because we're playing in Dallas, right? Like, it's a away game for us, and we never win there. So I'm hoping we just did, because like essentially, like spiritually, positionally, seasonally, if we whoop on them tomorrow, the season's done.
Yeah, man.
Like, they're done, bro. Like, what, 3-6, like, or some shit like that.
Yeah, I cannot stress enough how. Listen, there are a few teams in sports that I hate, but there is no team I hate more than the Dallas Cowboys. I can't fucking stand them.
Yeah. It's up there. It's up there for me. It's up there.
They like go out of their way to grab players that like are.
The Mets and the Braves are high on
the Mets are up there too. They're pretty fucking aggravating, especially after this year.
Even before this year, it was like, oh, the Nats, the Nationals, don't like them.
Nah, but you know what? The thing that really drives me nuts about Cowboys fans is that they also happen to be Yankees and Lakers fans, and it's just like
front runners, bro. Front runners.
Oh, always. There's a special personality to that, especially the ones who grow up. That if you're from Texas, I'll say this: if you're from Texas, and you happen to be a Cowboys fan, that's fine.
I feel like I know what you're about to say. Philly, Texas fans are the weirdest thing in the world.
It makes no sense. I actually have a theory.
But they like every other Phillies team.
Yeah, it drives me nuts. So my theory on that is that every Cowboys fan in the Philadelphia area happens to be like, they have a terrible relationship with their dad, and their dad is probably a huge Eagles fan. And then any Cowboys fan who is our age either has that problem, or they love their dad and their dad hated their dad. So they passed on.
I feel like you're giving them too much credit. I would somewhat out of sheer pity and sadness and wanting to just be an emotional blanket for people. I would accept that. I think it's so much worse than that. I feel like it's so more superficial. It's just your parent, whoever introduced you to football liked the team that was winning every season. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was an era of Cowboys football where they actually were America's team and won the championship a lot. Like, it's the Yankees, bro.
They've been irrelevant for most of our lifetimes, and it's the greatest thing ever. Yet we somehow split with them like every year, which I think is one of the most aggravating things ever. So to your point about going down there and kicking their ass, yes, it will feel very good.
Because it's literally the home team always wins in our Dallas rivalry. It's literally whoever's at home wins. That's just become the fact. So we go there when we go down there and just dog walk Dallas. Hey,
yeah,
boy, what a great day.
It would be a fantastic day.
You know what else is a fantastic day? When they announce a new Star Wars trilogy. That's always
a fantastic day. Hey, we you're talking to the cornerstones of
see what you did there.
The Star Wars podcasting game.
The side piece.
The side piece. We might be your Star Wars podcast side piece.
We're 1000% the magical side piece of the Star Wars universe.
We have to be. If you remove us, everything changes. So we're going to stick around.
Totally different vibes.
And we're going to keep it going. I'm here with the Rogue One, the Rogue Only, Matthew Porter, a.k.a. Matty Ice.
Check in, baby.
cookie to my cream, the Quinyon Mitchell to my Cooper DeJean.
Hey,
we're bringing, I say cornerstone for a reason, because we're, we may be in the secondary, but we're the number one place.
Might I just say, since we gave Dallas like 3 minutes, let's give the Eagles just a minute really quick. I love the fact that Cooper DeJean has his own chant already.
Yeah, me too. It makes me so happy. And I never thought in a million years we would get Quinyon Mitchell. So the fact that we have him and Cooper DeJean is just like, oh man. We've spent our entire lives worried about the secondary, and now it feels good. It feels good to trust the guys back there.
Yeah, because some people will have you believe that defense is a luxury. I don't subscribe to that.
I don't subscribe to that.
But some people do.
No, it's very necessary. 50% of the team. I'm the other 50% of this team. The co-host to your co-host. I am Mikey C, the human holocron himself. We are here to talk about Star Wars.
Plagueis the Rewise.
The
re-educated.
The re-educate. I like re-wise. Kind of sounds like
re-wise. Yeah.
What was the old be kind, rewind?
Yeah, I used to love. Yeah, that's my shit.
We'll come up with something. something like that.
Plagueis the Rewise. Rewise. We back.
We are coming to you at what several people might be considering some pretty dark times, and before the dark times, before the Empire takes over. We are here to help you with that transition. I cannot stress this enough. We want this to be a place where you can come and forget about everything terrible that's going on. So I think we're just going to hyper dive, if you will, right into this thing. So no spoiler warning needed here, because we're not talking about spoilers. I guess they may come up. You know what? Fuck it. I'm dropping it. So there was a big report that had come out today. Mike Fleming Jr. from the Deadline reports he had an exclusive. Lucasfilm has closed a deal with Simon Kinberg to develop a trilogy of Star Wars films. Kinberg will write the trio and produce them with Lucasfilm chief producer Kathleen Kennedy. He heard that they will comprise of episodes 10 through 12 of the Skywalker saga that began with George Lucas's 1977 first film, which alongside Steven Spielberg's Jaws reshaped the global blockbuster game, blah, 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 blah. Insiders disputed this intel. Kinberg will actually not be continuing that storyline. It will instead begin a new saga and sit alongside the percolating Star Wars projects that James Mangold, Charmin Obaid-Chinoy, Taika Waititi, Donald Glover, and others are doing at Lucasfilm and Disney. Lucasfilm and Disney have not commented on this, but it was just really exciting to hear that Simon Kinberg was coming back to Star Wars. A lot of people don't know this. He was one of the co-creators of Star Wars Rebels. Obviously, I'm a big fan of that. Fantastic storytelling. Matt, I'm going to pass it off to you because I know you checked out his IMDb. You read a little bit about this yourself to get your initial thoughts on it. But I thought it would be fun I'm going to hit you with some notable movies he wrote, notable producer credits, and we talk about positivity here, but I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about some of his big time duds. So I'm going to hand it off to you. I'm going to hand it off to you just to tell me your initial thoughts, and then you can pick if we're going to go over his duds first or his wins, and we'll take the conversation from there.
It's hilarious that you prepositioned it to me like this way. So I read the Variety article because Variety just it's a pretty reputable outlet for information.
I would say so.
Yeah, and the way that they shaped it out was they obviously, brought up his Star Wars cachet with co-creating Rebels and like what else he's done within the Star Wars universe, which had me over the moon. Just literally just his Rebels credits was enough to put me at ease because this. Oh yeah,
when we talk about the episodes, it's a big deal.
Yeah, and not even just that. We say all the time that Dave Filoni gets it. So this was like literally the co-creator of Rebels with Dave Filoni. So one would imagine that if not being directly involved with the trilogies, like Dave would be a confidant for him. Like it'd be somebody that he'd bounce ideas off of. Like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? If not directly involved, like executive producer style type time. Because I know Dave's working on Mando and Grogu. Still, hate that name, by the way.
Oh, me too. It could have been a million other names. Like I would have been happy with.
Literally, just the Mandalorian, the movie, I would have been fine with.
I'm actually going to say this for pop culture in general. Can we just stop naming movies like the name of the titular character?
Yeah, with the
like that's a comic book thing. Can we just do something else?
Like the and, yeah, and they just want a reason to use that symbol.
Essentially, like can we not like? I mean, The Dark Knight was the perfect like that's an example of a thing where it's like it's like the title of yeah. So let's find new ways.
And because I'm always cat for Christopher Nolan, even when he doesn't need me to cat because he's a genius. It's like watching that movie. They don't refer to him as the Dark Knight until the last line of the movie. So it's just like it's the chef's kiss. Like he's the Batman or Batman the whole time. And then when Gordon gives that little monologue about him being like the Dark Knight and the hero that they deserve, but I forget which way it is. Like the one we need
something, and then you finish with a Dark Knight. Yeah, Gary Oldman, perfect delivery. Yeah,
and then it just says the Dark Knight, and they're like, "Oh shit, I get it." That's why they call him the Dark Knight. It was one of those revelation moments. Like, so it worked there. But to go back to what I was saying, so the way that Variety does it is they give you all his positive Star Wars accolades. And then they just like squeeze in the movies that he was a part of too. It's like kind of sandwiched in the article. Like it's like good Star Wars shit, the movies that you might hate that he did.
Yeah. I feel like that's a good transition to talk about his duds first. Like let's get the bad out of the way so we can reflect on some of the good things he's helped out with. This okay. I'm going to throw this one out as maybe the worst comic book film of all time. Okay, maybe not the worst, but it's pretty bad. X-Men: The Last Stand. He was, I believe he did the screenplay for that. That movie, I think the only thing that came out of that movie was I'm the Juggernaut, bitch. And everything else was not great.
You know what's hilarious about that? I would say X-Men Last Stand, to my recollection, on this day, the year 20th of 24, is the first time that I can remember being vastly disappointed, but being so invested into a franchise that I was like, I was like trying to trick myself
into liking the movie.
Bro, like the whole time I'm in the movie theater, I'm like, I'm blaming myself. I'm like, maybe I'm not seeing the vision. Like maybe because X2 is arguably one of the best superheroes movies of all.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Even if you include all the current MCU shit, like X2 is like goated. Like it's like it's an amazing movie. So like X3, and they're like, I remember the promo run for it, and they're talking about, Kitty Pryde and Iceman's gonna get to cook, and Juggernaut and Angel, even though he's not in the fucking movie. But I just remember
in like two scenes.
Yeah, Pyro coming back and being in control of his shit now. So it's just like all that stuff. I was like, oh, this movie's gonna be crazy. And I remember just seeing that shit. I was like opening day, and I remember seeing it, and I just remember being in there, and I'm like, huh. Like when they killed Scott at the beginning of the movie, I'm like, this is still a cinephile in the terms of that I love movies, but it's pre-understanding like cash grabs and movie theater behind the scene Hollywood drama and shit like rewrites, bad directors, like shit. Mm-hmm. I didn't understand all that shit. So like I'm watching Scott gets killed in the first 5 minutes of the movie. I'm like, because you just spent all of X2 when Jean sacrificed herself. You were just waiting for Scott's story. You were just waiting for how this is going to affect his character trajectory in X3, and they give my man the stereotypical I'm stressed out so I haven't shaved 5 o'clock shadow look, and then they kill him.
They killed the leader of the X-Men. They killed the leader of the X-Men.
But
they don't stop there. They kill the other leader of the X-Men.
Bro.
Like, it's wild, man. It's wild movie.
Bro, like when they killed Scott, I just knew he was coming back to save everybody in the end or help out. Like the final war, I just knew he was gonna show back up when the chips were down and then they were getting blasted with the anti mutant fucking sniper bullets and people were losing their powers left and right and the Brotherhood was whooping ass. I just knew Scott Summers was about to come in and just be like, "What's up, bitches?" Like, just be on his P's and Q's, or to help take down Jean. Like the fact that Captain Friendzone was the one to take down Jean, that was such an unearned kill. Like, you're not about to try to convince me of some fake romantic story that you've tried to stretch out through 3 movies. Jean loved Scott. She did not love Logan. That's always been the thing. Yo, like, that's always been the thing. So to like have him have to kill Jean because he was the only one whose adamantium skeleton could survive her heat and all that bullshit, and he dies in her arms. Like, that's not even your bitch. That's not your girl, bro. like you cradling her and crying. She's literally a married woman, yo.
So easy to say, not one of Simon Kinberg's best contributions to cinematic history. And then we're going to move on to another. We're going to move on to another not so great contribution, the Fantastic Four reboot starring Miles Teller and Michael B. Jordan.
Ooh, that's my worst superhero movie of all time for me. It's
pretty bad. It's
the worst.
Fantastic Four. Oh, that's got a pretty good ring to it. No. Like, I gotta admit, this man, like, he definitely, if he's the one who wrote that line and the "I'm the Juggernaut" bitch, he definitely thought he was cooking, and he was not cooking.
He was cooking. I will say, I really enjoyed the casting choice of the Fantastic Four. Wait, which reboot?
Miles Teller, Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, my guy, my tie. So I really enjoyed the casting of that. Like, I thought that was a really cool twist to it. But yeah, that movie was fucking awful.
It was terrible. And then this one I've actually not seen. I've seen parts of it, like on TV, like reruns of it. But XXX State of the Union starring
with Ice Cube. I saw that in the movie theater.
What did you think? Because I've never seen the whole thing, and I definitely don't think it was.
So I wanna say I'm fairly confident that XXX State of the Union came out after X3. So I think I started, like, once I got my real taste of like delusion, like of trying to trick myself into liking a movie. I kind of understood the concept of like, summer blockbusters that just are meant to like put money in the studio's pocket. So by that point in time, I went and seen it because, like, I fuck with Ice Cube. I like the XXX property. The campaign for it with the trailers and the previews and the rollout was great. Not a great movie. So there's like how the movie ends is where they lost me. So he so they keep planting this seed that he was like the greatest high diver of all time. Like, just in terms of in the Navy or the Marines. I can't remember which branch of the Army he was in. But like, he held the record for like highest free dive off of a cliff, like in the history of the Navy. And part of the ending scene was he has to like take a really big dive off of a helicopter and or a bridge to like escape an explosion. And they're like, "Oh, that's higher than your record." Like, same time. And he does the dive, and it's such a bad CGI of him just taking this really
diving into that sounds fucking awful.
So bad.
All right, well, I don't really have it in me to talk about. He doesn't have too many other bad ones. There's nothing that we haven't like covered.
Dark Phoenix.
Dark Phoenix. Yeah. There's a couple in there. It's like, for as many bad X-Men movies as there are just a handful of good ones. And yes, his DNA is on those as well. So, some notable producer credits: Deadpool and Wolverine obviously slapped. Logan slapped. He was also a producer of The Martian with Matt Damon. And he also, so in addition to The Martian, he had also worked on Murder on the Orient Express, which I have not seen but heard good things about.
The newer one with Johnny Depp. Well, Johnny Depp's like,
or I think isn't Daisy Ridley in it? I think she's
yeah. Johnny Depp said it barely, but he's the murderer, or E. He's the person that gets killed. Then that's not a spoiler. That's like part of the press run. But I like the Murder on the Orient Express because you know what? The Hercule Poirot. I like. He has like a trilogy. Like there's more than one of those movies. It's Murder on the Orient Express, Death on the Nile, and I can't remember what the third one was called. But I think it was like Murder in Venice or some shit like that.
Yeah, it's all the same author, right? It's all the same author, but like different. Like they're for like books, you know, that were they did like a trilogy of the same author's books, right?
Correct. Yeah, and like it follows the character of Hercule Poirot. I think it's like him solving cases, which they're all really good. I like all of them. The first one's probably the best one.
So some good ones in that same vein. He was also, these are notable movies that he wrote. So Sherlock Holmes, I think that like that lends itself to it. So
the Robert Downey Jr. one?
The Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law one, yeah. And then I think, you know, I know we talked about Deadpool and Wolverine and Logan. I happen to really enjoy X-Men Days of Future Past. I felt like it was like one of the better X-Men movies in the past few years. He wrote that. And he also wrote Jumper, which I know for a lot of people, they don't love that movie, but you and I love that movie. And
I adore that movie. Bro.
That movie to me is like the only other Hayden Christensen movie that I'm really like, yeah, man, this one's good. I don't know what it is. I just love it.
I can't say anything but positive things about that movie. Like, I feel like we should randomly review that movie because it technically is a Star Wars. It has Star Wars and Jason
and Samuel L. Jackson in it.
That's what I'm saying, bro. I feel like
it's wild to go back and I'm sure you know this, but like Michael Rooker plays his dad in that movie.
Yeah.
Wild.
He said, "You could come home, boy. You could come home."
Yeah. So, you know, we talked about his duds, his notable producer credits, the notable movies he's written. Now we got to talk about the notable Rebels episodes that he wrote. And man, I got to tell you, he did not fucking miss when it comes to his contributions to Rebels. He wrote the series premiere, Spark of Rebellion, fantastic 2-part episode. The season 1 finale, Fire Across the Galaxy, another notable episode. We see the death of the Grand Inquisitor and like Grand Moff Tarkin's Star Destroyer blow up right outside of Mustafar. Like it is a phenomenal episode. One that like I don't think people give enough credit. Season 1 of Rebels is much stronger than I think people remember, and I think a lot of it is because
was that when Ezra got the scar?
Yes, that's when Ezra gets the scar.
Yeah, that was a great episode.
And so a lot of people, you know, I think they downplay season 1 because season 2 really pops off and changes the tone of the show. But when we are talking about, you know, Simon Kinberg's contributions to Rebels, not my 2 favorite episodes, but of everyone I've ever talked to, these are their 2 favorite episodes. Twilight of the Apprentice parts 1 and 2 are phenomenal episodes of Star Wars, period. Maybe 2 of the best in Star Wars animation. We see the return of Darth Maul. There's 3 different Inquisitors all fighting on Malachor. This is where they really started to kind of incorporate some of the sequel trilogy stuff and High Republic-esque type stuff with the crossguard lightsaber showing up. Just so many cool moments. We see Kanan get blinded in that episode. There's just a lot of great stuff. And
I was going to ask,
it kind of like
went to that temple place.
Yeah, and it kind of like broke a lot of Star Wars fans because they had to, what they assumed was watch Ahsoka die, right? So like there's like a lot of responsibility in those 2 episodes of really sticking the landing, and he was the writer for parts 1 and 2 of Twilight of the Apprentice, so can't speak highly enough about that. And then he also worked on the series finale, Family Reunion and Farewell, which are 2 excellent episodes in a season stacked with emotional heavy hitters.
Yeah. I mean, shit. He essentially, in hindsight 2020, is responsible for the Ahsoka show. He wrote the episode where, you know, because we know again hindsight that Ahsoka. I mean, I guess that really depends on how you view fate. Like, do you view it as like an endless loop? Like, so what happened always happens? Because if that's the case, then Ahsoka always gets rescued. But
yes,
if you're in it from the side of like, oh, it's not until Ezra changed the past that she did essentially die there. But I'm kind of more of the endless loop. Like once it
I think
happens,
Dave has confirmed it's the endless loop.
That's
like
how
it's
I've
destined
always
to
kinda looked at
happen, so it happens that way. And he saves Ahsoka, but he knows in that moment he can't save Kanan, and that's a big lesson he learns in the World Between Worlds episode, which was not written by Simon Kinberg, but you're right. Like Dave did trust him to send Ezra off to who knows where. Now we obviously know it's Peridia, and kind of like bring Ahsoka in to like round things out. And I'm sure Dave had a lot to do with that, and I'm sure that was a collaborative effort. But there's a lot of amazing things that happen in those 2 episodes, and some great action sequences. And I think that for me, when you look at his history of like screenplays and producer credits, all of them still hit really hard from an action perspective. And if we're going to talk about Star Wars being really fun and action packed, to have movies like Jumper and Deadpool and Wolverine, and even like The Martian from like a space standpoint, like these movies in his catalog of like things he's helped produce, really make me.
I almost called
Matt Damon.
I almost called him Matt Bourne. Combining characters. Yeah, Matt Damon. That was good. I like that movie.
But yeah, that's what I think that's what excites me the most, is that he gets action, he knows how to incorporate it into stories, and what he's touched in Star Wars really, to me, captures the essence of what makes it special. So I'm trusting this will be a fun trilogy that he's producing. Real quick before we kind of like, I think, move on to some of our hopes for his trilogy, how do you feel about the initial report being episodes 10 through 12? And are you relieved that it's not that?
Yeah, I was about to say, didn't Disney like come out and say, hey, Skywalker's done? Like, or they like refuted that? Like, hey, no, we didn't say that.
They didn't say that for this, but a bunch of insiders apparently were like, no, it's not that. It's not that.
Yeah. So I will say this. I'm 90% more on the side of a fresh start, because, you know, like I've said on this podcast and privately, like, I'm Skywalkered out. Like I'm totally fine with moving away from the Skywalker family and, you know, actually exploring this galaxy that's far, far away, and not just this very central nucleus of people that we focused on for literally my whole life. So I'm fine with that. But my 10% is I fucking hate how the sequel trilogy ended. Like, hate that shit. And like, there's a big part of me that like wish they could get a mulligan. Like, not necessarily to do it over again, but like to end it on another
But to give more characters a reasonable ending. Yeah.
And I know the Rey movie, like, in theory you would think would help with that, but I know that is currently going through like production hell, which, surprise
what Star Wars movie doesn't? Yeah,
exactly. And who didn't think that was like, I was hopefully thinking that movie was going to go through without a hitch, but I kind of felt that it was going to like go through the death march of trying to get a Star Wars property that isn't a Skywalker movie greenlit or accepted by the fan base. God forbid we have a female protagonist. You know, the gall of Lucasfilms.
That's crazy. How dare they?
Try to uplift and promote. How dare they?
How dare they? You know, it's not like there's people of all different walks of life who happen to exist in the world. You know.
Men have not ruled the galaxy long enough.
Yeah, clearly.
We need more time.
Well, you know what, Matt? They need to put a straight, white, cisgendered male. Actually, I can't even use the word cisgendered. That shouldn't exist anymore.
Right, exactly. So
I'm clearly kidding, but like,
obviously, this is all said and just. But yeah, 10% of me is like, damn, like I hate the bad hand, that because I love the character of Rey, Poe, and Finn. Like, you know, like I enjoy them quite a Mask Katana. I love her. I love like the people who were introduced in the sequel trilogy. I'm quite fond of. I just feel like they got dealt a bad hand. I will say this. Outside of my 10%, I love the fact. Love the fact that he signed on to do the 3 movies. There's going to be one specific vision for the 3.
I need it to be that. I need it to be that.
Yes, not
even if it's different directors, I need him to be the same writer for all 3.
Exactly.
Like
that part made me very happy.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's smart. I was really hopeful for the Rian Johnson trilogy. I get why that has kind of fallen to the wayside. I think the world needs to let him finish his Knives Out stuff and then maybe come back to Star Wars, so that enough time between The Last Jedi and that has passed. Yeah, not because I don't like The Last Jedi. I happen to love I happen to love several parts of The Last Jedi, but the masses apparently can't handle it. So I was really excited when they announced his trilogy, knowing that Simon Kinberg is getting a trilogy, and that he likely will be, he was always going to have, I think, the backing of Dave as the new creative chief officer at Lucasfilm. But if Dave is involved from a like writing and storytelling standpoint at a deeper level, that would also excite me, just because they've made magic together in the past. So introduce us to a new cast of characters. I'm ready for that. Compared to all of the other movies, I know you mentioned the Rey movie. We obviously have the Lando movie coming, Taika's movie, and there's the Origin of the Jedi movie that James Mangold is like heralding. Does this excite you more than those properties or like stories, or is there one out there that you think you're a little more hyped for than this?
I'm holding the line for this Rey movie, like honestly. But outside of that. No, this, like, once you put this on my radar, this kind of immediately shot to the forefront of ones that I'm excited for, because, like, I feel like Star Wars works in trilogy form. Like, there's just something synonymous about Star Wars in trilogy.
And a trilogy,
it just works. It's bread and butter, baby. Like, it just works. So, yeah, hearing that he signed on to do the 3 movies, because it's like, I feel like with the standalones like Solo and Rogue One and like Mandalorian and Grogu, less Mandalorian and Grogu because it's just a movie extension of an existing universe. But I feel like the one hitters that have come out before, they worked because they're existing in a specific pocket. It's like you have mad other stories to pull from that add to the experience of Solo. You have literally New Hope to add to the experience of Rogue One. So it's just like, it was fine being its own movie because there's other movies that you can watch to like as companion pieces. Whereas if it was just like a totally new story, just a standalone for a totally new story, like it's just like, how much can you fit in an hour and 30 minutes, 2 hours? That's going to make me like care about these people. And
that's kind of one of the things that worries me about the Origin of the Jedi film. I'm like, is this story going to be that compelling that I'm going to be satisfied by the end of it?
Origins of the Jedi in one movie, and then I'm going to care.
Right? Like that's kind of. I think you could do a Lando movie for sure. I'm not worried about that. I trust Donald Glover completely.
And there's other Lando lore that you can use to like fill the gaps. Like he shows up other places. Now, it's not
for
a
sure,
lot,
for sure,
right? But it fills other places. But But, so the fact that it's 3 movies and it allows me to get invested, it allows me to, because it's like one thing that I'm trying to like do more is be hyper aware of like moments that are happening to us right now that are going to be like the historical moments that like we talk about when we're talking about like older Star Wars. Like, you know, like the people who watched it in the 80s, like the Luke, oh shit, he doesn't say Luke, I'm your father. I almost just got red fucking flagged by the fan base. Like the no, I'm your father. I can only imagine that like in real time, like what the fuck? No,
I want to feel that, Matt. I want to feel that.
So, but it's just like, who would have thought then when they saw the like, yo, my grandkids are going to be talking about this. Like, I'm sure that wasn't on people's minds. So it's like when certain stuff happens, I feel like we see it. I feel like we see it a lot more in sports now than movies, because a lot of movies are just kind of like instant gratification, flash in the pan, just put some out. Like, not a lot of these things like live with us for a long time, but like we talk about it often. Like Dune 2, maybe the greatest movie I've ever seen in my life. That shit's gonna like awesome. That movie's gonna stand the test of time. Like we're gonna be talking about Dune 2 in 40, 50 years when people are like having film class in school and shit. So the idea that we might be introduced to a new motley crew of characters that are like gonna be like become pop culture references is pretty exciting that we get to experience it in real time.
Yeah, I will say this. I am super hopeful that it's further down the timeline, very removed from things, so that we can kind of just break new ground on Star Wars. I'm still happy to play in the eras that we know from like a TV show standpoint. Like I'm a big fan of what they've done in like the Mando portion of the timeline. I really enjoy a lot of that. Obviously, I know we're not going to get the Acolyte unless it somehow gets renewed. That was an exciting area where I was like willing to explore something. And now that that's kind of gone, I'm very, very, very hopeful that we go further down the line and these episodes take place, in a time frame way after like the Skywalker saga. I think that there's, whole just be creative, make sure that the tone is there, and like you said, introduce a new motley crew of characters that we can fall in love with and flesh out that portion of the timeline. I'm just excited. I'm ready to go back to the movies to watch Star Wars. And I know that Mandalorian and Grogu was like the first piece of that, but knowing that this is on the horizon, that definitely I think has me more excited than some of the other ones as well.
So I got two questions for you. Question one. I'm trying to think of which one's the better question to ask. All right, we'll just go. That's fine. I'll just start talking and we'll see where words take me. So question one. If, Disney's going to Disney. So likely, but I'll still say if, I'll hold out reservation. If they feel like they need to use a familiar face to just kind of like usher in, like for a promotional stand, like, hey, like we need to try to usher in. Even that's another thing. Total sidebar tangent. I need these IPs to understand that their diehard fan base is exactly that, a diehard fan base. I don't need you to keep dragging Mark Hamill off his couch and put him in Star Wars shit to get me to watch it. I'm gonna watch it.
I'm gonna watch it. Yeah,
I promise you, I'm gonna watch it. You don't have to keep trying to hit me with the nostalgia pop. It's not necessary all the time. So. First question, assuming they do want to use the nostalgia pop, because Star Wars is kind of like known for that. Who is one character that you would accept the most? Like, who's the one character that they could use as like a passing of the torch that wouldn't make you just roll your eyes? Because if it's Luke Skywalker, I'm giving you the heaviest eye roll.
Yeah. This is going to be an odd take, but I would love to see an older Grogu.
Ooh,
because that would mean that it can be way further down. the timeline.
way down. I like that answer.
Yeah.
Great answer. I have no critiques on that. We'll stay there. Second question. Let's say they want to take a gamble, and those of us who paid attention in school understand that a galaxy is a part of a larger universe, and there's thousands, infinite. There are so many galaxies. There are infinite galaxies.
Why would we be the anomaly?
So if they kept it kind of like how Game of Thrones did a Game of Thrones story, House of Dragons. If they kept it like kept it Star Wars, but we're in like a totally different galaxy far, far away, do you think that is way too off the reservations that like for Star Wars fans to like not implode? Like if we like if the only reference to like shit that happened in the Star Wars universe that we know is just like a designation of that galaxy, like, oh yeah, like, so remember in Across the Universe when they introduce Miguel, when him and when they first meet Gwen, and he was just like, oh yeah, y'all made a bigger mess than the kid and the doctor and Doctor Strange and that kid, and
Across the Spider-Verse, yeah,
Across the Spider. So like, if the only mention of like the Skywalker universe that we know is just a designation of that just being another galaxy in this universe, like if that's all we get of that, and it's like literally just a totally new galaxy, new planets. The Force can still be a thing if that's universal, but it's like literally in the like kind of how like with Ahsoka, like we ended up with the Purgle whales, took us to a literally new galaxy.
Yeah.
If it could even be that galaxy.
That's the one that's the only one that I think I would be okay with. Let me caveat with this, my answer. If the story is good enough no one will care.
Gotcha.
Right? But I don't know if the masses seeing a Star Wars, like if literally the only piece of Star Wars is a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away title crawl, and you're just in a completely different universe with no reference whatsoever to what like we know of the galaxy that like, you know, people are have grown detached to, it's going to be a hard sell. So I would prefer that they stay in the galaxy we know, or do Peridia, because we know a lot of the same concepts live there, like the Night Sisters are, you know, a thing. Like there could be like the Force can exist there, and yeah, it's like kind of like a universal thing. But I think if you do a completely different galaxy, it invites too many of the ideas that I'm not liking, like the suburban aspect of like the Skeleton Crew trailer, right? Like I worry that we might see something like that, gotcha. Which I'm not a fan of. I do like a more modernized era Star Wars, like
people living in condominiums instead of huts and shit.
Yeah, and which they kind of are doing in Andor. But
yeah, I was about to say whole sky rises like in there.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's like I think the plus side of doing it in the galaxy we know and doing it further down the timeline is that you can put a ton of Easter eggs in without having to fucking pull a bunch of actors in, or like, you know what I mean? Like you don't have to have the characters be there, but the remnants of what happened to those characters can exist. Like I don't want to go back to Tatooine personally, but it wouldn't bother me. It wouldn't bother me if for whatever reason some of the story took place on Geonosis, right? And there's like a hint to the fact that the population was genocided. You know what I mean? Like
oh yeah.
Those are things that it's like you can do a lot. There's so much like extra lore as well, like in the comic books and the novels, that I think that you could like tap into as like a real deep cut to, not for, but like it kind of is like there are cool concepts that I think would reward really, really diehard fans that can make for compelling stories, even if they're just set pieces. Even if someone's just coming across like cachet of like Jedi artifacts or like stormtrooper armor that's like been broken and busted down, kind of like the vibes that on Jakku, where like all of the remnants of like the Star Destroyers are. Like I think you can do things like that.
Back to Jakku.
I think you can do that in bits and pieces to make the universe feel a little bit more familiar while telling a completely new story.
But you don't think that there's like a really big, especially like if Dave, like we saying if Dave will be involved, like what aspect and how much is like the thing that's up for debate, because it hasn't happened yet. But you don't have some type of trepidation that if they try to tell a new story so close to previously used ideas that they won't like kind of like fall into the comfort of like a already established universe? Like if it's like if they're going through like Skywalker Saga adjacent and we're still like visiting similar planets, not the same ones that we keep going back to, but like you said, like with the Camino reference, which I love, especially now that Camino's like should in theory look totally different, because like it's been like I guess kind of uninhabited.
So I said Geonosis, but what if Camino, what if Camino like, that is an ocean planet becomes a sand planet?
Yeah.
Right, like Tatooine was. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's the type of thing where it's like you can do stuff like that. Like it can still be Camino, but like
so that's why I wanted to say like the Geonosis or the Camino one, which I accidentally threw out there. That I'd be cool with. I guess again, like my fear is that again, telling a story so even though it's later in timeline, but like in such familiar surroundings that they would again like want to use the nostalgia pop. Like, oh, hey, like this is something that people will love. And instead of it being like just the Easter egg for like eagle-eyed watchers and like hardcore fans, they'll like make it a part of it. Like that's my concern. The call outs and the tipping of the hat and the wink to the fans to like the, hey, like we didn't forget where we came from, even though we're telling a new story. That I'm completely fine with. It's the trying to.
You're worried that someone's going to go back to Tatooine and buried the Skywalker sabers.
Yeah, some shit like that. They're going to use something that they know for a fact is established, just as a way to like usher in old fans into the new movies, like a way to shepherd people who are like, oh, hey, these are people who are like diehard Skywalker saga fans. Let's give them a little bit of this. Like, Obi-Wan had a secret child. Like, this is his grandkid. Right. Like some shit like that.
Yeah, but like, I don't. Yeah, well, that's
great,
the thing.
Great.
Right. I think that's why Grogu makes the most sense. Where it's like, and that to me works, right? Like, you can
make it like 1,000 years down the road. Like,
you can have him be the character that somehow pops up that like has fans being like, oh my gosh, it's Grogu, like holy shit, we watched him as Baby Yoda and like now he's like a Mandalorian. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
you sounded like an episode of Pokemon when they come back from the commercial break. Who's that Pokemon?
It's Grogu. I'm definitely the title of the episode.
I'm here for it, bro. Who's that Pokemon? It's Grogu. Name of this episode. I'm here for it. But no. Like I said, I'm down with that. Like, if you're gonna stay in this sandbox, I need you to go eons into the future. Like,
I'll tell you what I really want, Matt, is I want the story to take place in the galaxy we know, but have the same alien species walking around. Like, that's the familiarity I'm looking for. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a Wookiee as the main character, but I'd like to see a Wookiee. Same with Twi'leks or the Ithorians, and you know what I mean? Like, those are the aspects I want the universe to continue. I think, like, don't get me wrong, I get it. It's like a wide and vast galaxy, and I'm not saying that like we need to not make new alien races, but I think that was one of the things that bothered me about The Force Awakens was that they had that whole cantina, like Maz's castle, right? Which was like a cantina homage scene.
I wish they would have got more into that because I loved that.
But with no aliens that were recognizable.
Right.
And it's like, it would have been nice to see like one or two, and instead we get like Nien Nunb and Admiral Akbar. And that's all well and good, but I'm just saying it's like those you could have like you could have thrown like some other guys in there. You know what I mean? It didn't have to just be like the rebel leaders that were the same recognizable aliens.
You know what'd be crazy? Like, you just kind of put an idea, and it's like it would be like I won't say a gamble, but kinda. If they did like a subtitled Star Wars movie with a Wookiee main character, I'm like, that would be kind of crazy.
It's kind of like when we pitched our Star Wars horror movies.
Yeah, like I feel like that'd be nuts. Like on some.
Holy shit, that was a year ago. Go back in time and listen to our Star Wars horror movies.
Please. But I think
that put that out last Halloween.
Yeah, like I think that would kind of like be like if they kind of did like a Ronin samurai story, like kind of like vibe, but like the Wookiee's the main character because they don't speak English. It's like subtitle.
Right. It's basic in the Star Wars universe.
You're right. True story. But yeah, I think that'd be cool.
No, I'd be totally down for that. It'd be real. I think I'm ready for them to get a little crazy, but like you just
because to somehow, I don't know how he did it, but to somehow draw the parallel back to a reference we just used. One of the greatest episode of Pokemon was when they got stuck on the island and it was just the Pokemon and they were talking to each other, but it actually showed what they were saying. Yes. Yeah. That's one of the greatest episodes. We could actually see them talking to each other.
Yeah. Like, Squirtle.
Yeah. And they could have easily just been like, oh well, since they're all Pokemon talking to each other, let's just give them human voices. Like, let's just let them talk, and it'll just be. But no, we're gonna keep them with their Pokemon sounding voices
and give them subtitles. And Meowth can talk a little bit, so people don't have to read as much.
Exposition, baby. Like all the plot points that need to move forward and not make you read. Meowth. But I think that'd be cool. That'd be kind of be dope.
Hell yeah. Well, I guess that's all I really have to say about that. Any other closing thoughts, Matt?
Don't fuck up.
Yeah,
no, I do have one fun one. So, in the Variety article, they start listing just Kinbergs. They start they add him to the list of like directors who are tackling Star Wars projects, and they just kind of like list ones that are coming up, ones that didn't pan out, and one of the sentences, they obviously bring up David and Dan, my arch nemesis, nemesis,
and the awesome voice.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'll just kind of read the little blurb really quick. It says Lucasfilms has several other Star Wars projects in the works, from filmmakers such as James Mangold, Charmin. Oh, I'm going to say her name.
Babe Chinoy. Yeah.
Yes, that. Taika Waititi, Donald Glover, and it's ambiguous of which of these will be the first to hit the big screen. New installments in this space opera series from director Patty Jenkins, Marvel producer Kevin Feige, The Last Jedi director Rian Johnson, and Game of Thrones creators David Benioff and D.B. Weiss were announced over the years, but never came to fruition. And I just thought that was hilarious.
I mean, they're not wrong. There's a creative, I don't know if it's a problem at Lucasfilm as much as it is like along the way, some of these creators, I think, maybe get to the point where it's like they're biting off more than they can chew, or they're trying to make a bigger pivot outside the norm than I think Lucasfilm is ready for. But I also think to some extent, they've given their directors on the TV shows a lot of freedom to inject new and interesting elements to the Star Wars universe. And the more diverse group of people we have creating Star Wars, I think the better. So I think that this is exciting. And like we said, like, I don't know in what capacity, I don't know if Simon Kinberg is directing these, but there's an opportunity here to, like, you know, have him write a good trilogy and maybe bring in, you know, like the Rick Famuyiwas and the Bryce Dallas Howards and give them a chance to like really take off a piece of this pie and make something really special. So there's just a lot of excitement there, I think.
Yeah. And just for clarification, just with the reason why I read that, it wasn't to like bring up the fact that a lot of directors be starting and stopping. It's the irony that we're reading an article about, you know, Kinberg and launching like a new Star Wars trilogy when that was originally supposed to be David and Dan, but they did such a bad job in the last season of Game of Thrones because they were trying to hurry up and rush to get to Star Wars, that Star Wars was like, y'all suck. We don't want y'all dealing with us no more trilogy.
I mean, he's coming off executive producing Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't know how you could fuck that up. And so we'll see, though.
I just again, because, you know, I've said on this podcast, I've said on D before, I have such a deep disdain in my heart for them two men for ruining 10 years of my life that I won't get back. Because Game of Thrones, for me, at one point, was probably the greatest TV show of all time until that last season. And then when I found out that they pretty much phoned it in to try to hurry up and get on to Star Wars because that was the movie that made them want to be filmmakers, and then your product was so bad that they promptly ripped it away from you. It's just a great nerd karma.
I hear that, man. Well, you have been listening to And Are You Okay?
A Star Wars podcast.
Thank you, Matt. And you can find us on Instagram and I guess on Twitter at the letters A&I Are You Okay Pod. Is
anybody even on Twitter anymore?
I'm about to delete it. I don't know if I can live there anymore. But you can also check out our sister podcast, Dragon Ball for Life, where Matt and our good buddy Travis talk all things Dragon Ball, anime, manga, and more. We have a great Dragon Call series that interviews all sorts of different creators in the space, whether they be voice actors or just people from the community, you know, given their soul and energy into all different areas of nerd culture. They just recently did a Dragon Call with the coach, I believe, of Florida Shogun. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, he's like a player coach.
Yes.
So he runs the team. Yeah, shout outs to Michael. Shout outs to Florida Shogun. It's a great one.
So definitely check. It's a really interesting. Yeah, it was a super interesting interview. Definitely check that out. And if you're watching Dragon Ball Daima, you can hear Matt and Travis kind of react to all of those episodes and review them a little bit in I guess as much real time as we have had in the past. This is the first anime series that's officially airing while you guys are doing your thing over there. So you can check them out at Dragon Ball for Life on all of your favorite podcasting platforms and on Instagram and Twitter at DB4L_pod.
Yes, and due to the due diligence, the expertise, and the craftsmanship of our super producer Mikey, we always put out the previous week's episode on the same day as the new released episode, so you can give yourself a little recap before you start next week's episode.
Hell yeah. You're welcome. Put that shit on your commute.
Facts. Big facts. And then by the time you get home,
watch some Dragon Ball.
You'll be reminded of what happened last week, and then you can just dive right in.
You mean last time on Dragon Ball Daima?
Exactly.
All right, Matt, close this bad boy out.
Bro, I don't know what word I'm going to rhyme with. But Animaniacs, it's like we say here in a galaxy not so far away. It could be Kinberg. It could be Hamburg. You know, it could be
like the sandwich.
yeah, or the place where hamburgers came from. Hamburg,
right.
Germany. You know, it could be shit. Iceberg, you know, lettuce, or the thing that sunk the Titanic.
I'm gonna crash right into that thing. Into it.
You pick. You pick. It could be Pittsburgh. You know, it could be Pittsburgh. It could be Spielberg.
Okay, all right.
Or it can be Ray. Life can be a beach. You guessed it. As long as there's no sand, and you're gonna be okay.
Be okay. May the force be with you, Matt.
And with you. Later, nerds.
Deuces.